Jackson Jobe has officially gotten the call to the majors by the Detroit Tigers. He leads the way of an exciting list of 10 prospects Matt and I are excited to talk about for 2025 on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DonMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most important to us, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through text message alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And this episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball's rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. And Matt, can't even bury the lead here. I mean, I think it's too little too late for fantasy baseball purposes, but Jackson Jobe is here getting the call from the Detroit Tigers. Matt, how do you feel about him, brother?
So, I mean, I'm excited for Jobe for next year. I mean, I think this is going to be a good indicator of what to expect from him, for 2025. He's coming in a relief role, essentially. So we're not going to see him get a full start, but that doesn't mean we can't see how he's going to handle big league talent. And that's the key part. How does he come out there? How does he adjust to the bigs? Does it take him a little bit? Do we need to put training wheels on him? How do we set our expectations for 2025? And this is the perfect, spot, right? The magnifying glass is on him, and we can kind of analyze exactly how he's doing, get some statistical analytics and all this stuff to kind of just quantify what Jackson Jobe's outlook is going to be for 2025. So for me right now, I'm really paying attention to this next week, and kind of see exactly where this journey takes us. And, what I'm looking for, I guess, with Jobe is, since we have to analyze a prospect, essentially, is what's the fastball look like? How's the movement? Does he show command? Does he give up runs? Is he walking guys? Is he trying to strike guys out like crazy? And is it backfiring on him? Is he painting the corners? All these kind of things that kind of tell me what a prospect is going to do when they get a full season, a full lick of a workload. So Jobe is an interesting case because normally guys are already up. So I'm excited to just see what the breakdown is going to be after his first, outing, which should be sometime this week.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. He's the number one pitching prospect in overall baseball, according to MLB.com. Also, the number 6 overall prospect. So he is, really good. I'm excited. He has a big fastball. He stands 6'2", 190. He's got a deadly slider as well. Nice 2-pitch combo. Also mixes in a nice changeup, a cutter, all above average, by the way. The changeup and cutter aren't as deadly as the fastball and slider, but still a plus pitches. I think he's going to be as promised. I don't think he's the next coming of Paul Skeens, but I think Jobe is going to be right behind him. I think going into next year, I think he makes the rotation. I think he's going to be a strong number 2 for Detroit behind Skubal. I think we'll be able to get somewhat of a deal on him. I don't think we're going to have to pay a top 20, 30 price for him. I think we should be able to get him as, maybe by the time draft comes, if he's dominating spring training. Once again, Jackson Jobe is who I'm talking about here. If he's dominating spring training next year and, the hype builds, I could see him getting into that top 40, 35-ish range. And I think it's going to be worth it, though, because a guy like this has a lot of strikeout potential. Aurelia off his stats from this year. This year, 21 starts in the minors for Jobe, a 2.36 ERA, 91 innings pitched, 96 strikeouts. Batters hit 178 against him with a 112 whip. The kid's got a lot of talent. I'm really excited about him. Once again, not too much to do for fantasy baseball purposes this year. I will throw out he's 11% owned on Yahoo. Make sure in your dynasty keeper leagues, if you're still playing, it can make some moves. Make sure he's owned. I'm pretty sure he's owned in most of those leagues, but it doesn't hurt to just double check. You do the discount double check and you make sure he's still available, not available in any of those leagues. But let's move on to actually the number 2 overall pitching prospect in baseball. It is Noah Schultz. Also very, very excited about him. He doesn't really play for an exciting team. He plays for the Chicago White Sox, but the talent is there, and you never really know what the White Sox have planned. If they go super sellers and really just, give into everything, because I don't see them being relevant anytime soon. They're going to have to get some bats to go with them, an arm like Noah Schultz. So who knows what the future holds for him. But hey, in the minors this year, 23 starts for Schultz, a 2.24 ERA, 88 innings, a whopping 115 strikeouts. Batters hitting 196 against him with an 0.98 whip. Schultz is a lefty. He's 6'9", 220, a big mountain of a guy. And normally when you see pitchers that are this tall, they don't have that frame on them. But 6'9", I know 220 sounds a little bit light, but 220 still at least, got something on him. He's really known, once again, has a good slider, fastball, mixes in a changeup that's decent, needs to work on the control a little bit, but a guy that I think is going to be an exciting name for fantasy baseball next year. Once again, Noah Schultz, Chicago White Sox starting pitching prospect.
I mean, so I like Noah Schultz's talent. I just don't believe in the man, truthfully. Usually we come out here, we're super positive about like an episode like this, but Noah Schultz also has an injury history that nobody really talks about because they're not really aware. So like I drafted him in a couple spots where like I was in a dynasty league or, one of my key leagues, right, for, prospects, where we actually hold a whole minor league system. And I did a little deep dive on him. The guy actually has a history of shoulder injury and things like this where, yes, he's young and 20 years old, but at the same time, like this is something you got to take into consideration. If he's had an injury history as a youngster, that doesn't mean it gets better with age. It gets worse, right? The older they get, the harder it is to heal. I don't care if you're, the difference between a 15-year-old and a 25-year-old is a significant difference. So with Schultz, we just want to keep an eye out. This could be a guy that, has one magical season, is incredible. And then the rest of his career is just like, okay, cool. He's missing a month. He's missing here. He's missing there. I like the kid. He's somebody to me in dynasty leagues that are actually expendable. I can use him as an asset to move on, high name, high value, and then just kind of get more prospects or upgrade because by trading 2 of these guys in the same range. But anyway, I'm going to move on. I'm going to talk about Chase DeLauter of, what team is he even on these days? Colorado. So here's one. Like he's a good starting pitching prospect, honestly, 6'2", 200 pounds. And, I do like the talent. I don't like the team, right? So when he does eventually make his big league, debut, it's going to be for the Colorado Rockies. And I'm not really about that part. Him playing for the Rockies is something that I'm just not, really thrilled about. We all know what Colorado Rockies pitchers look like and things like that, and how there's just a disadvantage when they pitch at home. It's much worse than hitting at Great American Hitter Park. This might as well be, Great American, hit a home run and get a beer kind of type park because it's that short. Like, okay, every time I crack a beer, there's a home run hit. But with Chase DeLauter, though, the dude does have some serious stuff under the hood, right? Like, through 2 levels this year from A+ all the way to AA, he's managed to keep an ERA of under 3 with an average between the two of a 2.59 ERA through 118 innings pitched. He also had 169 strikeouts and kept the whip at like a 119, which I'm not mad at. But when he got the promotion to AA, it was actually a 110. So like he does have the potential to suppress and things like this. I want to see a little bit more advanced statistics that we don't get in, single A and double A. I might be able to get a little bit more once he hits the triple A level and things like that. But right now for me with DeLauter, he's another one. Really great name. I'm holding on to him now, see what the Rockies want to do. But, if they want to go out and get a superstar, he would be one of the people that move on. And then I'm kind of going to pray that he goes to a team that not only could develop a pitcher, but 2 is a better park, which honestly, at this point, any park is better than Coors Field. So Chase DeLauter for me, He's not really high in my rankings, but he's somebody that is worth paying attention to see if he does get moved for the Rockies to go out and get a superstar.
Yeah, man. Well, you know what? Actually, before I jump in and give my take as well, and then we have actually a former top high end pitching prospect, and we got some more hitters as well. Those names and more coming up next.
Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Exploring my skills on Prize Picks this season adds an extra layer of excitement to daily fantasy sports. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Pick with as little as 4 picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 really fast. Prize Picks is incredibly user-friendly. I can make my selections and submit my entries in less than 60 seconds. And as the host of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, I got some great picks to get you started off with since we're going to go out and get that money, right? Opt for Paul Skeens to have higher than 7.5 strikeouts in his next start. Opt for Fernando Tatis Jr. to have higher than 0.5 stolen bases in his next outing. And opt for Pete Alonso to have higher than 0.5 home runs in his next game. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Again, use the code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your league or game. Are you watching Fox Sports and ESPN on your TV all day? Have you had to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or free on the Amazon Fire TV channel app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Honestly, as this offseason unfolds, you're going to want to get in. You're going to want to be a part of our, rankings, rookie reports, asking us questions, dynasty questions, all our dynasty stuff that we put out, plus our redraft rankings and all that wonderful stuff. So get in, links in the description below, get a free 2 weeks. Rankings will be coming out in about a month, so you don't want to miss out on that. But Dom, hop on back in there.
Yeah. So I let me jump back in here, Mr. Chase Dollander, starting pitcher, Colorado Rockies. Matt, you started to hit upon the point that I wanted to make about Chase Dollander at the end there, where I think that most people are of the mindset, yes, of course, he pitches for the Colorado Rockies. Why would I want this guy on my team? I think that it might be in the owner's mind if you play in a dynasty league, right? Oh, this guy plays for the Rockies. I don't know if he's really going to be that good. You might be able to work a deal this offseason and sneak him in. Just, you know what? If you throw Dollander in as well, and I hate to say this too because, Matt, as Matt mentioned, we play in leagues like this, and he would be a great guy that I would love to target this offseason. If you could just sneak him in the end of a trade, I think that's going to be awesome because if he does get traded and he goes to another team, he's a great pitcher. He's a very, very talented young pitcher, great prospect. Matt really broke him down very, very well, so I'm not going to add too much. Matt, did you read the season minor league stats off for him this year?
Yeah.
I don't wonder if you did. Yeah, so Matt broke that down already too. Big strikeout numbers. Batters only hit 215 against him. I love that for Dollander. He'd actually be somebody that I'm trying to acquire. He's the 20th ranked prospect in all of baseball, and he's the number 3, right? Yeah, number 3 pitching prospect in all of baseball as well. So I think for good reason, and I think if this guy was on, let's say the Yankees or a really good team, the Dodgers, that he would get the Braves get a lot more hype than he's getting right now. So it speaks a lot that he is ranked as highly as he is. Let's go from one Chase to another. Let's talk some Chase Burns. Chase Burns actually, I'm excited about him too. Another big dude, 6'3", 210, big fastball. Pretty much everybody, all these young prospects have that fastball slider, but he also has a curveball. You don't see a lot of these kids coming up with nasty curveballs like this. A 60 grade curveball on the prospect scale. He reaches 102 with the fastball. So, this kid can really be deadly, but he's raw, right? He's still young, at 21 years old, does have a lot of upside. but I think he's somebody we need to keep our eyes on. He pitches for those Cincinnati Reds. I don't think I mentioned that. Another team with a tough home park, but another kid with a lot of young talent. And Matt, what I really wanted to do this episode, besides, Jobe, is kind of talk about some guys that we haven't mentioned this season, because I know we get a lot of our hardcore fans that are sticking around this time of year, and I didn't really want to throw all the same names at them. So really wanted to mix it up, and I think Chase Burns is going to be an interesting name that we should keep our eyes peeled for next year. Another guy, hey, maybe he's not owned in your dynasty or keeper. You can sneak him onto your roster heading into next season.
No, I agree with everything you said. I like Burns as a prospect. It's yes, he's also a Cincinnati Reds pitcher, which, I mean, again, we all know how that is, but it's much better than being on course. And, we look at like Hunter Green's doing, Nick Lodolo has done when he's actually healthy. Yeah. They can be successful. Chase Burns is somebody that, has the prospect pedigree, and everything that Dom said pretty much adds up to it. So I'm really not going to repeat everything he said, but ultimately I endorse everything that you said here. And I do want to move on, because this is actually my number one pitching prospect. Blows out everybody, and it's not because I just live in the area, but it's because Andrew Painter's stuff is so nasty, it's not even funny. Okay, you hear us, like, if you're around often, you hear us talk about, like, it's movement on pitches and things like this. He breaks that stat sheet, because it doesn't just move. It kind of just, you say, okay, when you're driving straight on your remote control car and you just hit left, it just goes. Okay. Like, it doesn't just move. It's, oh man, if I could think of the book, but essentially it'll come back to me. But anyway, if he wanted it to drop to the floor, it could drop to the floor. It's just ridiculous in terms of movement. He has a really good fastball. He's 6'7" and 215 pounds. He's going to play for a great team. The only thing that's going to bring him down in total rankings is, when is he going to be ready? That's the biggest thing. He's coming off TJ. And yes, he managed to, record some bullpen sessions, but actually hasn't gotten out on the mound this year, which is kind of upsetting. I wish we could have at least got a little bit of data of how he's coming in return. So with that being said, get it out of your head that this kid is going to break opening day roster. You'll probably see him in spring training, but ultimately with Andrew Painter, he's going to be more of a guy that they're going to kind of warm up. He'll probably be in spring training. And then by I'll say June-ish, that's when they'll be ready to put him into the rotation. Andrew Painter, I think, is going to be an insane prospect. When I tell you, this is probably going to be Paul Skeens level type of pitcher. That's literally what it's going to be. But it's not going to be this blow you away speed, even though he has a good fastball and things like that. It's going to be more of this stuff. It's just going to be so incredible that literally his fastball looks like a junk ball. So you're just not going to be able to comprehend how good this kid is until he's actually out on that mound. Andrew Painter, again, my number one pitching prospect.
I think that's bold. I think it's bold. I think Jobe got to be hands down one. Second, I can see throwing his name in the mix. Like you said, though, I just got to see how he looks back in game action. It's tough. Andrew Painter is so good, but talking about, go back to 2 years ago, it was Andrew Painter, Grayson Rodriguez were like neck and neck. Who's the number one pitching prospect in all baseball? It's just tough to see guys take an injury like that. Let's see how he feels when he gets back on the mound. It's going to be tough for 2025. If he comes back out and he's just rock and rolling, look at somebody like Kumar Rocker. Had big injury. Had struggles. Finally figured it out, and look, he's up now in the bigs for the Texas Rangers, and he's pitching fairly well. I think that could be the same case for a guy like Andrew Painter. Main reason wanted to get him on this episode, just don't forget the name. Matt, I don't even think he covered. Let's do 2022, the last time Andrew Painter pitched. 22 starts, a 1.56 ERA, 103 innings, 155 strikeouts, batters hit 181 against him, and 0.89 whip. That shows you the talent. Has some of the best talent in all of baseball. Matt, like you said, I think he'd be like a Paul Skeens light. I think Paul Skeens is just a generational talent. I think Andrew Painter will be like right below him if he can figure it out and get back to the pitcher that he was. But make sure you try and acquire this guy this offseason in Dynasty before he gets back on the mound and really starts dominating again. I really do love me some Andrew Painter as well, but I'm a little skeptical, just a little bit skeptical. But before we move on to the bat segment of this episode, which we will have to push through, we got some great names like Walter Jenkins, Marcelo, Meyer, and Max Clark. Those names and more coming up next. Explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about those other baseball cities. Maybe it's time to taste test your baseball competition stadium cuisine. Luckily, on Booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's just right for you. With Booking.com's wide variety of choice across the U.S., you can go incognito to all your baseball rival cities. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, booking.yeah. And all right, for time's sakes, I'm just going to keep things pushing here. And let's talk about the potential number one overall prospect in going into next season, Walter Jenkins, outfielder for the Minnesota Twins. And man, this kid's good. Got the big frame, 6'3", 210. He is only 19 years old and, already hitting the cover off the ball in the minor leagues, hitting 282 across, is it 4 levels? Yeah, I think he rose through 4 levels. He rose from rookie ball to double A this year. 282 across those levels, 82 games, 51 runs, 22 doubles, 4 triples, 6 homers, 58 RBIs, 56 walks to 47 strikeouts, 17 steals. The kid's a monster. He's a very patient hitter. Shows by the walks, the strikeout ratio, overwhelming almost. He's got some pop in the bat with 60 grade power. I don't really know what else to say about this kid, but he is just a very complete prospect. He can run a little bit. I really don't have much else to say. Just Walter Jenkins is somebody you need to be aware of. This is the kind of player that if you play in a redraft league and he gets the call or gets the chance out of spring training, I know we hyped up Wyatt Langford this year. I wouldn't draft him if it gets crazy where Wyatt Langford wound up going like the 5th, 6th round. This is a guy can get him like right outside the top 100. Maybe you have to get him as your second utility bat. This is if everything goes right scenario I'm talking about. But you just need to be aware of it, right? So then you're not afraid of it if it comes, because then you're like, I've never heard of this guy. He's just dominating spring training a little bit. You just want to be aware that he might be worth what it takes to get him.
Yeah. So like, I just want to take a little bit of step back on him and just kind of look at him like this. There's a world in a way where he doesn't even make the call or even play next season, or let alone he's probably more of a September call up for me next year. But he's definitely somebody to keep an eye out, because if he even gets the call like the time that Ellie De La Cruz did, which is like a little bit after the All-Star break, then yeah, he comes into play. I want to see what he does. I actually just want to see the power numbers kind of come to more of a fruition, because we've seen the ratings and what he's graded as a 60 grade power, but like, I want to see him actually do it on the field. I understand, he's a real person. So like getting that many, promotions and moving that often kind of throw you off a little bit, but he was successful in the batting average category all the way up until he made it to double A. So I'm wondering why he only finished with 6 home runs and, at a grand total of 305 at bats. Cause I mean, the way everybody's talking about him, they're grading him with a 60 grade power, which means that, there's upside for like 30 home runs. So I just want to see that kind of come into fruition next year and kind of see that a little bit. And that'll get me going on more on like the Walker Jenkins train for, next year. And I could kind of gauge better whether I think he'll get that call. But this next guy here, Marcelo Meyer, I think that's how you say it. That's just
Marcelo.
a Guinea. Is it Marcelo?
Marcelo Meyer.
Oh, okay. I thought just going full blown Guinea. All right. Sorry, guys. I am Italian.
Hey, listen, Matt and I are super Italian New York guys. You gotta give us the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. So like, he plays for. He's on the Boston Red Sox. He's 6'3", 188 pounds, 21 years old. So in that primetime age to get called up next year, playing in Double A all season pretty much, and 300 at bats, 60 runs, 28. I'm sorry. 8 home runs, 28 doubles, 38 ribs, 13 stolen bases, batted a nice 307, an OBP of 370, a slug of 480, an OPS 850. He looked good, and I'm a fan. All right, he's somebody that I don't think is gonna knock our socks off with power numbers. You just got to kind of look at him like this. He's probably like a 2020 guy that with the potential to drive in some runs and pretty much just get on base and then be scored. He's not going to be like a super talent that we're going to be drafting in the top 10, 15, 20 maybe. But I look at him and I go, there's some upside. What can we see take a step forward. I think ceiling play is kind of, you look at him and he could be the next Kyle Tucker, but then floor could probably be an Andrew Benintendi where, 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. It's a very wide margin for Meyer, but I do like the talent, so he does intrigue me.
Yeah, Mayer's an interesting player. After his bad 2023, I kind of took a step back from him, but he really, pushed the gate forward this year with a 307 batting average. 8 homers, 13 steals, plate discipline. Took a step forward with 30 walks and 66 strikeouts. A strong year for Meyer with 28 doubles as well. So Boston actually has been really good with prospects over the last couple of years. We've seen guys like Wilyer Abreu and Ceddanne Rafaela come up and just be pretty successful and useful for fantasy baseball. So I think Meyer could fill in the same way next season. They do got a lot of mouths to feed there in Boston, especially Trevor Story coming back. He's under contract, so he's going to be on the field. Let's just see what they do with Marcelo Meyer, and he's definitely a guy that could break camp out of spring training. Keep your eye on him. Matt, great comps. I think he could be like, especially it's funny that Benintendi played for Boston. He could be like a prime Benintendi where 2020, a good batting average. If he hits near the top of that lineup, the runs will be good too. So he could be fairly useful for fantasy baseball purposes. So definitely watch out for Meyer next year. Let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk about some Max Clark. Max Clark, I feel like somebody we might have only talked about once or twice this year. But he's really good. He plays for those Detroit Tigers. I think they're going to be ripping and raring to get this guy up next year. Honestly, I don't think there's room for him this year. I think he would have been called up with Jobe if we were going to see it this year. But 279 batting average for Max Clark across 2 levels this year. 107 games, 75 runs, 21 doubles, 6 triples, 9 homers, 75 RBIs, 61 walks to 94 strikeouts, and 29 steals. The kid's got some talent, 6 foot, 205, another young guy at 19 years old. He's actually more known for the speed, as you could tell with those 29 steals, not so much of a power guy, actually has a good arm in the field as well. So he's somebody that I could, see him be like, a nice 280 hitter, get you 30, 35 steals, hit you 10 home runs, that type of guy. And I'm telling you, Detroit's going to be a good team, man. I feel like I was even saying in the offseason, Detroit, they're making a playoff push. Max Clark could definitely be a big part of that team next year. Could be like that push they need after the All-Star break, like after the Super 2, they could be like, we're getting Max Clark up here, especially if he's hitting really good next year. Just a name that you definitely don't want to forget about in 2025.
All fair points. I like Max Clark as a prospect. I'm excited to see. I mean, for Detroit wise and real baseball, if you're bad for that long, eventually things got to turn around. And, unless you're really terrible at drafting, then, you shouldn't be a GM. So, I think they've finally, everything's kind of coming together for them. But I do want to talk about this next guy. He's actually one of my more favorite names that I'm pretty much enticed with and fell in love with just by, what he did in college. And that's Charlie Condon, playing for the Colorado Rockies. Condon? God, I can't even pronounce today. Condon. Wow. Condon, got it. And especially after he hits against these pitchers, they're going to say put a condom on. So yeah. So this kid is actually really good. The fact that he's playing for the Rockies too is going to be a serious bonus after I kind of break down what he did in 2024 when he played for Georgia in the SEC. It's just kind of bonkers. 231 at bats, 84 runs, 20 doubles, a triple, 37 home runs, 78 ribs, 3 stolen bases, batted .433, 566 OBP, and a slug of 1.009 and an OPS of 1.565. Now, let me read this one little stat again. 231 at bats, 37 home runs. Now, I understand, look, it's college, not minors. You look at his minor league stats, and he's had a little bit of hard time adjusting to the bigs. Do not get me wrong. I've noticed that. But at the same time, my guy had a really long season of baseball, which is college, and then kind of goes up into the minors, has to adjust. I think it's going to be a different season next year for him. So at Condon, I'm approaching it like this. If I can get my hands on this kid next year in my dynasty leagues or just in general, like there's a chance and there's a way he might even get the call up if we see early production from him early in the minors. He could be a Super 2 call up because the talent can outweigh it. And honestly, Colorado's probably struggling to put people's butts in the seats. So bringing up a sharp prospect can get him out there sooner. I think he's MLB ready once I see a little bit because I think the pedigree from college was there. He was drafted number 3 overall for a reason this year. I think Condon is somebody that's going to be fantastic once he hits it.
Yeah, man, I'm a big Charlie Condon guy as well. I followed him through his minor league, not even his minor league career, his college career. He hits the ball so hard and so far. Actually, he reminds me of like a righty version of like Adam Dunn, where I don't think he's ever gonna be like even though he hit for batting average in college. I don't think he's ever gonna be like a monster batting average guy. I don't think he's ever gonna be like a 300 type hitter. But in Coors, if he could hit 270 with like 40 home runs, like who is complaining at that point? I don't think we would be as fantasy. Matt, you want to hop back in? Sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to rebuke what you just said about the batting average because it looks like he has a good eye, especially his last year at college, 57 walks to 41 strikeouts. I think that if anything, the batting average will be there, but it won't be as impressive on the stat sheet because of just maybe just the flyouts. But I think the walk to strikeout ratio will be indicative of the kid that could have possible average upside later.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. I'm not expecting it. I'm not going to go out of the gate expecting it from a guy like, it's tough with the bigger guys too. Not everybody can be Aaron Judge. They have the bigger strike zone, right? If you're 6'6", it's going to be tough, especially when you get up against major league pitching and these guys can paint the corners, like that. It's going to be tough. Some of the best the hitting prospects in all of baseball, like the Joe Adells and the Kelnicks and the guys that come up that just can't do it. So like I said, even if he could hit 270 with the pop, I think he might have to sell out a little bit of the batting average to get the pop in there. But Condon is just a guy I'm super excited about. I didn't even realize we're running a little bit long here, guys. We could sit and talk prospects all day long, but I'm going to have to cut it short there. If you want some more prospect talk, join us on Subtext. But shout out to our everydayers and new listeners making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. Guys, until next time, see you.
Peace.